Do it.
Well, I wanted to thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
It's a
Thank you for having
privilege.
us.
I wanted to have you tell my followers about the journey of this band becoming a reality.
Okay, well, I think we've got to go back to 2021-ish, around that period, when everyone was locked down and there wasn't much to do. And we're scrambling around looking for some, trying to get a band together, select the right musicians. But they couldn't rehearse because you couldn't move around the country. So the only solution was to send in parts individually and try and mix them and see how it came out. And the first thing was to do a few cover versions, and it came out so good. We decided to keep them, and we found more, and it just went on from there. Some band members left, others joined, and then we eventually settled on the lineup, and we started recording properly when all the lockdown stuff finished.
And one of my favorite tracks on the album is Hard Rain Falling. I wanted to ask if you could speak on that track.
Well, it's that's one of Jan's favorite tracks because he was Sir Lord Baltimore, the American band, of course, from 1971. They put out an album which was produced by Eddie Kramer, who, of
Wow.
course, yeah, he did their album, and they I think they only ever played one live concert and then they just split up. But that they released a couple of albums. The second one wasn't as successful, but that first one was all proto metal, and that was way back in '71 when I don't think heavy metal as a term had been invented.
Mm.
And you could have picked four or five songs from that album. I mean, that one hasn't been covered, I don't think, too much by anyone. And it's a nice, short, thrifty song, and it just worked really well. Uh, I mean, it wasn't. It was between that and another one. So yeah, it was. It worked out well. And Jan, the other guitarist, had worked with John Garner, the drummer, the original drummer and vocalist. So he knew him. They'd done some sessions together. So it was a natural progression, really, to do one of his songs.
And of course, we have to talk about Space Ritual. It's a song it seems that everyone has been talking about. Could you talk about that track?
I'll let Chris do a bit of talking. Actually, I mean, I can tell you the origin of it first, but and then Chris can tell you musically about how it developed. Um, there was an old band from near Malaga in Spain, in southern Spain, that did some demos back in, I don't know. No one ever recorded them. No one ever um, got to know this band, and one of them was Space Ritual, and there was another song which is just as powerful, but we went with Space Ritual, and I thought it had a lot of potential. It moves. It has a great riff. We've tried to extend a few passages, put a bit more lead guitar in there, and then it all came together in the studio. And I'd like Chris to do some talking on that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that one was one that it was Spanish lyrics originally, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was quite a change, I think, from where we'd done before. They were obviously quite true to the originals. That one, as you say, yeah, we mixed up the structure a little bit and sort of added some other sections. So yeah, it was quite interesting to work on from a musical point of view. Quite a bit of a change of pace again from some of the sort of the constant hard hitting songs as well. With the sort of the slower intro and sort of building up the guitar solo and then yeah, sort of into the general riff. So yeah, it was interesting to work on. We had sort of the reverby section towards the end as well to kind of try and create that spacey theme, I guess. But yeah, no, so it was a fun one to work on for sure.
And I also heard that there's an interesting story behind the two sections that are just lead parts. Could you speak on that?
Which
We,
section?
I believe there were There's two tracks where it's just like solos, and I believe from what I've read that there was a story behind that.
So the solo, so yeah, sorry, I thought we were talking about Space Rituals still. So yeah, with a couple of solo tracks, yeah. So it started originally. Mike came to me. It was originally wanting a sort of a solo intro to Precious Rock. So from the start, it was Precious Rock being one of the again sort of the hard hitter driven songs. So we really wanted to come and set the tempo, nice sort of straight in your face solo sort of thing. I thought at the time, the album it's very much as I say, harking back to those 70s, 80s rock metal. So as a bit of a Van Halen fan myself, I thought, it's a bit of a sort of make a bit of an ode to Van Halen as well at the same time. So yeah, that's just kind of how that came about. For Jan's one, so Cool, Calm and Connected, that was sort of a Jan project. I think Jan's an amazing guitarist, and it really shows in that song. Intelligent, calm person, and he's almost sort of it's easy for him to really come up with some really nice guitar patterns, really nice sounding, all sort of flows really nicely. I think one of the main things for that, it just for me fits really nicely into the album itself. So again, after sort of the very fast start of Hell on Wheels, you've got Winner Takes All, probably the heaviest song on the album. It then fits really nicely in sort of a tone setter, in that actually that's not all we can do. That there's other parts to us as well, and it really sets the tone for the next few songs after that. As you said, you mentioned The Harder the Better, Blackjack, and yeah, it just fits really nicely in from that point of view.
And I review 20 to 30 albums every week and go through material all time. And I have to tell you, this is the most driving album I've heard so far this year.
Well, that's really kind of you to say that,
Yeah, thank
Robert.
you. Yeah.
That's great to know.
How long did it take you to get the track order together? Because that's one of the things I truly appreciate about the album is the way it's laid out. It's laid out like the original days when you had a side A and a side B.
Yeah, well, I guess I always go back to those 70s rock albums where I was brought up on, and I wanted it to sound almost like if you went to a live show, the kind of running order that would work in a live show. We wanted the guitars to sound live all the way through. I didn't want it muted in any way like some studio albums are. I wanted it to sound like you were in the room with the band, and it had that live feel. I didn't want to shortchange the listeners. I didn't want any keyboards in there. I didn't want any acoustic guitars. I just wanted live, loud guitars, drums, bass, and great vocals, which Matt has. So it took a while to get the running order. To go back to your question, you wanted a big finish, you wanted a big start, and I think we did that with Hell on Wheels starting the album. It's probably the longest track, and then Richard III, which is a bit of a climax because we've got the Budgie guest guitarist jumping in there. So you got 3 lead guitarists, which is a bit greedy, but I think it sounds great. Throughout the process, it was constantly telling Raz, the recording engineer, lift the guitars. I want louder guitars here. I want more. I want to hear the solo a bit louder there. And it's like, you can't go any louder than that, Mike. I'm telling you, that's as loud as we're going to go with this. It's going to distort. I said, are you sure? Can you not squeeze a little bit more out of it? And that was a constant conversation throughout these recording and mixing sessions. And he reined me in a little bit. I'm glad he did. And in some ways, I got my way with some of the others. So that was a balance as well. But to get the running order, yeah, we tried to move it like what a live show would sound like.
And speaking of a live show, what lies next for you? Will you take to the road?
Love to. We kind of released this album. It's come out a little late in the year to get onto the summer festivals because the lineups were all kind of confirmed almost a year ago, at the end
Sure.
of the previous one. And we have contacted a few, and it's like, we'll put you on the waiting list if somebody pulls out. But we didn't want to trying to get on a festival till we had some product out there, till the album was released. We'd had some reviews, people knew who we were. So we're now looking at the start of the end of the summer, the start of autumn, to do some gigs. Maybe 3 or 4 in Scandinavia first, because they're very popular over there, with 2 of our members being Swedish, and then maybe a week later to come back to the UK and do some. But it all depends what the reaction to the album is.
And I wanted to ask you as well if you could each take a moment and speak to me about your musical development and at what age you began.
Chris?
Yeah, so in my teens, got into guitar sort of a bit casually at first. I ended up finding sort of a few Maiden albums, and that was really kind of set me off. Became a massive fan, and that really got me into it. But again, sort of branched out a bit more. Van Halen was another. Went into a lot of blues stuff. Was a big fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Um, and yeah, just sort of progressed through there. Played a little bit in my twenties, up and down, and then yeah, a bit more recently. Yeah, sort of trying to do a bit of everything really, as much as I can.
And you, my friend.
Well, I'm not a musician, I'm the producer, but my background, growing up in my 20s, was buying albums every week, trading them, swapping them down to the store, listening to as much rock music as I could. Started going to concerts from about 15, 16, seeing bands like Nazareth, Thin Lizzy, Budgie, those kind of bands, Jeff Beck. They're always appearing in Manchester, which was the nearest city to where I was living, and so we went to concerts all the time. Um, and then later in life, I suppose, uh, I wanted to start my own label off, and I started looking at those bands. I found quite a few live recordings of them, and we licensed them, released them. And then to develop that further, I thought, well, let's get our own band together and do our own material. So I guess just listen to loads of music in the 70s and 80s. Um, the 80s, I was in the States for 5 years, so I was unfortunately uh, had to listen to their choice. But just as the 80s was starting, it seemed to be a totally different environment over there to how the UK and Europe was. We were coming out of punk and new wave material and stuff like that, and they were still listening to. I like them, but they were still listening to the Doobie Brothers and the Eagles when I came to the States. So things were totally different. But
Sure.
yeah, but just constant music all the way through, I think.
And this band has a strong 80s feel. It's very guitar driven and it definitely exemplifies the sound of that time, of that era.
Well, that's good to know. Have you had any feedback at all from anyone as to whether they've been playing the album or downloading it or anything?
Not feedback back, but I've been giving a lot of feedback to all my friends because, like I told you earlier before we started, I felt there should have been a disclaimer on this because it is bombastic from top to bottom. I just love the way it flows, the energy in it. It's something that I haven't heard in quite some time, and it really stuck out to me. I couldn't wait to speak with you about it.
That's great. That's great. Well, do you have a favorite track?
Ooh, I would say mm, it's hard for me because I love every track. The reason I wanted to ask you about Hard Rain Falling was the one I loved. What I loved about that song is not only the song itself, but its placement. The placement of every track on this album is perfect. If I was to put the album together and those songs together, it's the way I would put it. But I love where it fit, and I felt it was conducive to everything.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's one of the shorter songs as well, I think.
Yeah, and which could make it a single as well.
Yeah, it could. We've already released 3 singles, so we've kind of over exploited the singles, I think. But yeah, um, it's an idea. We had it as a B-side, didn't we, Chris? As
Mhm.
one of
Yeah, I was just thinking. I think was it to the Black Ice single? I think
Hmm.
the B-side to that.
yeah, we put it out. We put it out as the alternative track to the second single, which was Black Ice.
Mhm.
I
So
wanted to ask you as well. The album is out. What's the best way to get a hold of this album physically and any merchandise that you have?
the merchandise hasn't started yet. It'll start probably in the next month or so when the vinyl's out. The CD was released 27th of February, and the vinyl is a month later, the 27th of March. So it just arrived yesterday. Nice translucent red vinyl, a nice color inserts and inner sleeves, and it looks really nice. Um, to get the album, either CD or vinyl, I think it's up there now on all the Amazons and in every country. It's up there as a download or a streaming album on all the usual platforms like Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Tidal, SoundCloud. It's up there on quite a lot of things, Amazon as well. So um, I mean, you just have to type into Google Nerve Star White Hot, and there's quite a lot of American stores now offering it, which is surprising. Um, so yeah, you can get it. Uh, get on the phone to your nearest store and ask them to order it.
And lastly, I wanted to ask you if you could give any message to the fan base, what message would you give them?
That's a tough one. Do you want to try, Chris?
Yeah, just yeah, no, any support is appreciated. Obviously, it's very early days for us, and yeah, excited to see where things go, and yeah, anything's greatly appreciated already so far, and yeah, for the future.
Yeah, and
Um,
as we spoke, the response has been amazing on the album. As you said, the lowest rating you've seen in a critique was 7. And in my opinion, this is a 10 out of 10, hands down. As I said, this is one of the best, if not the most powerful album I've heard this year.
no, that's great.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, and we will be starting working on new material
Mhm.
probably in the next couple of months. Yeah, when we're seeing how this one does, when the dust has settled from this one.
Well, I wanted to thank both of you for taking time to speak with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Well,
Likewise,
so
thank you.
yeah, thanks, Robert, Chris.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Enjoy the rest of your day, my friends.
Thank you very much, and
And you.
you too. All the best.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.